Welcome to Childcare Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Childcare leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next childcare rockstar. Now, let's go. This is episode 130 of Childcare Rockstar Radio, featuring Maureen Thompson. Hey folks, it's Kris back with you here at the podcast. Thanks for coming on in. I really appreciate, and I've got a really good one on cue for you today. My friend Thompson is joining me here in the podcasting studio, live in person. And this is the very first side-by-side live instead of virtual conversation that I have done, an interview for the podcast. So it's kind of cool. We set up a little conversation area and we dive in talking about emotional well-being for kids and how to reduce isolation in our world and how that might even positively impact gun violence. So we dive into that topic gently because we know it is quite charged. Before I get into all of that, I want to thank two sponsors who are helping support this podcast. The first one is our friends at Brightwheel. This episode is sponsored in part by Brightwheel, the complete preschool and childcare management software that integrates everything you need to easily run your program in one place. Have a strong start to the new school year by using Brightwheel to build quality connections with families and staff. Brightwheel is the leading software in early education that can help you share milestones, videos, and photos with families to connect them to their child's learning and centralize messaging, newsletters, and alerts so families never miss a message from you again. Visit mybrightwheel.com/rockstar. That's mybrightwheel.com/rockstar to get 50% off your first 3 months of Brightwheel. That's amazing. Again, mybrightwheel.com/rockstar, 50% off. Thanks, Brightwheel. Our other sponsor for today's podcast is Constructive Playthings. Hey, the new school year is around the corner. Are you ready? Whether you're starting from scratch or refreshing your classrooms, the team at Constructive Playthings is standing by to help. With many new items available this summer across all categories and some back-to-school specials, now is the perfect time to check them out. STEM center play, social emotional resources, or even new items for your light table, Constructive Playthings is always ready to point you in the right direction. Focus on what matters. Let Constructive Playthings help with the rest, and check them out for all your back-to-school needs at constructiveplaythings.com/CCSC. Awesome. Thanks, folks. So my friend Thompson and I have quite a passionate discussion in this podcast, all about helping the kids that are loners, to be quite frank, the disenfranchised, the kids who feel weird, the kids who feel like they don't belong. And this is such an important topic, guys. We have to do better about finding ways to include children and get children to include each other. So we talk about many, many strategies. Thompson is actually here in Carbondale and where I live. And she is one of our community's leading experts when it comes to helping children that have nowhere else to turn. And she has actually provided her personal information on this podcast at the end of the episode for anyone that is dealing with kids who have trauma, who don't have friends, who don't have the social skills to connect, or may have some, signs of special needs. She's made herself available to have conversations with any of you that need support and need help for figuring out what to do and how to connect with your local community resources on this issue. So this is a really important episode, and very much dear to my heart and from the heart. Mo is the founder of Rocky Mountain Kids Clubs, and she actually created a mobile learning space. She took an RV and outfitted it fully, and she's using it to help kids in a variety of ways. We talk about that, and she's just super passionate about helping kids at all ages, whether it's the littles or the high school kids, all the way through. And I just want you to pay attention to this episode with such an important topic and think about one or two things that you can carry forward as action items, as ways that you can continue to serve in this all important issue that's facing our world right now. So I titled this episode Eliminating Isolation in This Crazy World. And it starts with hello. It starts with just trying to make a personal connection with any child or adult that looks uneasy, isolated, or they feel like they don't fit in. And I love Mo because when I met her, she said, listen, I'm weird and we're all weird. We all have some aspect of weirdness. And so helping kids not feel weird and helping them figure out, ways that they can just fit in. She goes, I give them games. I give them these different things. And I just break those barriers down, like literally every day, breaking down barriers between children and adults. And I just love that. And I love her. So I'm really, really excited and proud to introduce you to this special lady here on the podcast. And we are busy. We are getting ready for our Nashville Summit in 2 months, which happens on October 19th. We are starting the Student and Staff Attraction Bootcamp course, which is a 6-week live course that we are doing. It's self-paced, but there's a live cohort of people going through it. And the whole course is designed to help you have and build the skills for the rest of your career for how to get fully staffed and hire the right people and let go of the wrong people, and how to get fully enrolled for the rest of your business life. So that is what this course is designed to do and does. And we have a guarantee with the course, and we're starting on Monday, August 1st with it. So if you're interested in joining us, you have just a handful of days if you're watching this live. Student and Staff Attraction Bootcamp. It's one of our top sellers, and we're running a live cohort for the next 6 weeks. So you can reach out to us and we'll get you in. It's support@childcaresuccess.com. And we'd love to have you. With that, let's dive into episode 130 here at Childcare Rockstar Radio and meet my friend Mo Thompson. You're going to love her. Enjoy. Talk to you soon. Welcome, everybody, to Childcare Rockstar Radio. This is Kris Murray, your host. And look at where we are. We're actually in a different spot in our amazing office and studio here in Carbondale. And I have my podcast guest sitting right here next to me, Miss Maureen Mo Thompson. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Okay. Yeah.
Welcome
Beautiful
to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I love it. You gave me a tour a few weeks ago. It's beautiful. It's just a great space. I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled to have you. And this is our very first ever in-person chit chat, which is kind of cool that we're doing not a virtual conversation, but an in-person one.
Yeah. It's nice. Like, I feel like that whole, like the COVID thing, I forget sometimes. I'm like, oh, forgot. Right.
Yeah,
That's still a little bit on the fringes.
Still a little bit there, but we're going to pretend like it's not and just.
Not for us.
We're going to roll it back to 2019 or something. I don't know. So glad that you're here. So tell us a little bit about you. What do you do in the field of education? Just tell us a little bit more about your background and what you do.
So I started out as a ski instructor in Crested Butte 100 years ago, so that's kind of where I got the kid bite. I was like, whoa, this is great. I can ski, teach. This is it. This is what I'm going to do.
Nice.
Fast forward to, I guess it was 1999, and I ended up being, I went to Alaska to meet up with my boyfriend, future husband, and I ended up being a paraprofessional in Kodiak, Alaska, and that was where I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. I have to be in this environment. Mm-hmm. So we moved all over, and then we ended up in New Hampshire, and I got my master's degree in New Hampshire, and I worked in the local school districts for several years. And my goal was obviously the special ed teacher thing, but I really noticed the kids that don't have friends were like they broke my heart. And I was blessed my whole life to have great friends. I have amazing friends. My new friend, very, very amazing. Bye, yeah. So it just killed me where these kids weren't invited to birthday parties. And it started out that it wasn't Rocky Mountain Kid Clubs. It was just these after school programs for socio-emotional wellness things and also social skills. So that went on for years and years. I did that after school. And then before COVID hit, it was 2017. I had left the school districts and I said, I'm doing my own thing. The most important thing is the emotional well-being of these kids. And it was one line in a graduate school book that said, kids are not available to learn unless they're emotionally stable. And that stuck with me. I just always stayed with me. And, the meetings I'd go to were more reading, more math. And I was like, no. We need to focus on these other things. So I took the leap of faith and I started my own thing and it started out great. And then I worked with the local school district and I had a Mo school where 2 kids that were students of mine previously had maxed out for behavior here and then in an affected needs program. So they came to me, and then in December, so I worked with them in Mo School, which was a private school type setting in this RV that I have, which is so cute. I love Mrs. Partridge. I think I am, and I know I have my hair like Mrs. Partridge.
Stop it. If that's the case, my hair's like Alice. I mean, come on. But so you have an RV that you've tricked out to be a
mobile meeting space. And then
space.
COVID hit and it was everybody couldn't go to school. And I was like, oh, I got to get out of this house. I can't watch one more thing about COVID. And I started just renovating that RV. And that was all summer. And then in September on my birthday, 2020, we rolled that thing out. I had tears streaming down my eyes.
Oh my
we were
God.
right over to the local school district because they had contracted with us to do distance learning cohorts. So that was the beginning of it. And then we continued with the Mo School. And now it's all socio-emotional wellness groups, emotional regulation, girls working with girls to navigate friendships so they can, and I see it every day, how to interact with girls and say, hey, that's not good for me.
Right. It's
not comfortable. Have a voice, find your voice.
And you're doing small groups. And what is the age range of the kids that you have in your?
Well, so it can be they can be any groups, but any age groups, K through 12, really.
Okay.
But I group them according to age. So if somebody calls me and says, hey, I have a couple kids, I'll say, what's the age? And then I'll target those kids. Then if it's older kids, I'll go and I'll call the schools and I'll say, hey, I have this group I'm starting. Do you have anybody you want to recommend? Because it's not a social skills or a fabulous group. We call it without a couple kids. So they're school age kids, but it can go all the way to 12th grade.
Okay. So, so that program is called Rocky Mountain Kids Clubs.
Well, that's like the umbrella.
Okay.
Is Rocky Mountain Kid Clubs. And then we have the Mo School, not the distance learning anymore.
Right.
But it's the social emotional wellness programs. And now in the summer, we're doing Adventures in Summer, which last year was much larger, but now it's a smaller group. And I spend a good amount of time with each kid every day, just working on what I see, they need. Right. I have a boy that had trouble in school and he came during spring break. And I just noticed that he really picked up on some things. And I thought, I'm going to give this kid a chance. And he now works for me. Right. And he is showing so much improvement. I mean, these kids, I don't know. I'm a very humble person, but for some reason I feel it in my gut, and I think it's a gift. I really do think it's a gift,
right?
That I can connect with these kids.
And so we met through a mutual friend, our friend Laura in Crested Butte. When I lived in Crested Butte, and actually one of the Child Care Success Company, the original office is still there above the Alpenair. And you lived there, and then we got connected, and we've skied together, and then we went to lunch, and we started talking about this notion, this pattern of kids who are completely alone and have no friends and are socially isolated, and what to do, and how those kids have tended to be the ones that have grown up and gone into violent behaviors back in our schools as well. And then the situation with Uvalde. emerged.
Right.
I think even after you and I had lunch, I think.
I think it was right before that.
It was
right before that. It was a week before because we were talking about that. Yeah.
Right. So I mentioned to my list in a recent email that I wanted to bring you on to dive into what you and I talked about and explore this issue a little bit further. So this is not our typical podcast business topic, but it's an important topic, guys. And I just felt
the
like
awareness of
it.
It's just spread the word. That's really what it is. Spread the word, the emotional regulation stuff. Like, well, we were joking, over lunch about my little tagline that says, invite the weirdo.
Right.
We're all weird.
Right.
I'm weird. You're weird. Everybody's weird, but nobody's, I think, even as adults, able to admit that we're struggling with these uncomfortable feelings, and these things happen in school. And I see those tragic events as a community failure. I really do.
Right.
That kid belongs to all of us.
Right.
And we all have to bond together. And it was extremely, I unfortunately can't talk about that kind of stuff, but that was a town that talked about Friday night lights. And I thought,
Right. Well, let's dive in. So one of the messages that we wanted to bring to our audience is invite the weirdo. So let's dive into that for a minute. So when you see a child who is not fitting in, no matter what age the child, or an adult for that matter, but let's just focus on children. Mo's message to me the other day was, tell your kids, because I still have going into high school, senior, invite the weirdo. Like, hey, Maeve, my daughter, if there's kids that you see that are disenfranchised, invite them to our home to have a part, to be in the social circle.
You have no idea the kids are not invited. There's a local boy. His mom and I are very good friends. He's never been invited to a birthday party, and I know all the other parents and all those other kids. And I just thought, what would it have taken to just have one more, right? One more,
So what I love about your program is that you're embracing the weirdness. I love when you're like, we're all weird. I'm weird.
We are. I think at this age right now, like, I'll tell you, I live in fear. I have anxiety all day long. I live in stress. And these things that we teach these kids, if they work for me, they're going to work for these kids. I mean, right. I was telling Robin when I came in the 50 things that I was like, I don't know what happened earlier, but this, and I thought I just sat down and I let my glitter settle, is what I tell the girls, let the glitter settle.
Yeah.
And then let's figure out what to do.
Right.
But we all have angst. It's all different levels. And until we can have these kids understand that we can settle ourselves and then look over and say, oh my gosh, what's he doing? Let me go over there and take care. Let me go see what he's doing. Like even today, the thing is make a new friend. Oh, I feel left out. Well, we got 3 kids over there. Go join them. The answer is always yes. Can I join? The answer is always yes. Just join in.
Right.
So,
and mostly it's leaders and owners as the audience for this podcast. But in terms of, the leaders need to stand up and tell and work with your teachers, because every day you guys are looking at students and there's more challenging behaviors going on right now.
Absolutely.
Most people are reporting a 2x, 4x, 10x increase in their classrooms, early ed, for challenging behaviors.
They're my kids. Kids.
So we're like trying to also get everybody tied into resources in their town or state that they can have specialists come in and help, because unfortunately, early childcare teachers a lot of them don't have the training and skills that they need. So in that case, what would you advise people that are watching this podcast? Like, how can they, if they see challenging behaviors that are, you're like, those are my kids, what are some things that they can do?
I honestly, I think for me, I think that we should be asking kids what they have done, what kind deed they have done today. What'd you do today that was kind, that helped somebody else out? Every kid's going to tell them they had a great day. Oh, how was your day? My day was great. Well, what did you do for your neighbor? What did you do for the next guy? This me. Like, I've overheard conversations with kids about like where they live, and they live in this neighborhood, but you don't live in that neighborhood. And I'm just thinking, well, you're telling me your neighborhood's better than my neighborhood? Like, I go to work every day. You don't go to work. You're coming over to your parents' neighborhood. Like, it's just, that doesn't matter in life. What matters is if you get yourself okay, but look at your neighbor and say, hey, what can I do?
Right.
Do you want to color? You want to do this? You want to go on a bike ride? And the thing is, Rocky Mountain Kid Clubs is old-fashioned fun. And my aunt, oh my gosh, God rest her soul, she used to say as a joke, Camp Discipline. She was really tough. And I said to the kids the other day, I was like, welcome to Camp Discipline. But because I'm tough on the kids about being with other kids and taking care of each other. We're a team.
Right.
If somebody's over there and needs something, get over there and do it, And today it was funny because on board, I was like, you're bored? Well, let's see what we have. We have 50 million Legos.
Right.
We have this, and then I sat back.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, if I could send the videos of these kids today and every day, I'll say, I want to take a minute, and I'm crying because it's so emotional for me to see them break up. And one girl who's super shy, now she's playing with the kid that's overbearing and all naturally,
just organically pairing up and helping each other and being friends to each other.
And just saying, I'm going to make a new friend today. And there's one little boy that likes to play by himself, but he's kind of shy. And I said to him, that kid over there, he's an underrated friend. Get over there. Learn from him.
Right.
They loved it. He had a million ideas, So, and with the behaviors, it really is just giving kids time to say, I have a chart that I say, where are you? Yellow, green, orange, it goes all the way up. And just giving them a chance to identify and be okay with being uncomfortable, because life is uncomfortable.
Right.
Nobody told me life was uncomfortable until my husband died. And then I was like, this is, what do I do? Really my life was great. My parents, I was very blessed. My parents raised us and we had a great life. Cousins always, it was very fortunate to have a lot of friends. We had a lot of family, no worries. And then that happened, and I didn't have any coping skills because I was always told everything worked out. It's just the way it was. And
there's a lot of people in the audience that are totally relating with what you're saying because they've had this life-altering event. They've lost a spouse or they've lost somebody special, and then they're ungrounded, they're unmoored, they don't know what
and we have to tell the kids that oh, I'm sad. I'm like, okay, so you're sad. Let's talk about that for a minute. You're not going to be sad in 5 minutes. You're not going to be sad tomorrow. Just be sad.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
Right.
And then let's move on from it.
Right.
But it's I think because you look around, everybody, according to social media, has the best life in the whole wide world. Wow, good for them.
Yeah. Well, and I want to bring something else up related to this with that social media thing is that last week in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article about the overabundance of emotive. Now we're all expected to express 10 bazillion hearts to everything. Everything is oh my God, how amazing. Happy birthday with 17 emojis behind it. If you don't say it, you're a bad person. Right. So now I'm feeling guilty about that. I have to be on Facebook, celebrating everybody's things, times 10. And it used to just be enough was just to say,
happy birthday.
Right.
Or just be happy for their thing. Yeah.
And so we're over emoting now too, which I think is also causing more anxiety because people are wait a minute, what am I supposed to, when am I supposed to throw 10 bazillion hearts?
How many likes?
Yeah. So anyways, that's a side thing I found to be quite interesting.
But and I think that, that social, I hate to say it, but some days I want to post stuff on there that just about real life. This is my day today. I don't need any hearts. I don't need any likes, but just to kind of get that ball rolling where it's you wouldn't believe what happened today because it happens, but nobody posts that stuff. And I thought, well, then I'm going to get a million calls because everybody will be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Is she okay?
Are you okay?
I'm going to start doing that. So look for that and don't like it.
Well, I think
sense of energy.
I think the message of what you're saying is just important for educators and leaders of educators to hear, which is some of the languaging you're using in your amazing learning RV, your social emotional programs, in your cool program are languaging that teachers need to have in their toolkit.
Exactly.
That they don't have this, it's just
neutral language.
The emotion colors, be kind, make a friend, let's, and so all of the things that you're doing for kids and especially helping kids that feel completely alone and isolated, disenfranchised, have no friends. And
even just, even the popular kids, letting them know that it's okay to have a bad day. Like, you don't always have to be the best at everything.
Right.
You could have a tough day, and that's okay.
Right.
Because honest to God, if I had learned these lessons at 20, oh my gosh, who knows where I'd be? I mean, I'd be like, but I'm learning these lessons later, and it's like, boy, I've learned the best, most important lessons from the most challenging times.
Yeah.
And if we can teach kids that,
right.
Because when your child goes outside, or when your child leaves the preschool, not everybody's going to be like, yeah, you did so great. Oh, you did so great. Like, they're going to be like, oh, look at him. Like, life is tough. The boss is not going to be that good on you, easy on you when you had a hard day, or when you go for the job interview, nobody's going to come and give you 40 awards. Like, you have to push through these challenging times.
Yes.
Because not everything is great.
Right. And we did another podcast related to this. You guys might remember Nefertiti Pointer. She is with the Devereaux Institute, and she talked about resilience factors.
Yes.
And so, when you're having a tough day, you put up your umbrella and you work on your umbrella are the resilience factors that are keeping the rain from coming on your head. And that was the metaphor that she used. But
your adaptability quotient is how flexible are you? Like, today, somebody, I forget what it was, and I heard a little girl say flexible, and I was like, what? Kris, run over there. Hey, what do you mean? Who's being flexible? Let's see. And I had this stick, and I said, look at that. You guys flexible. What happens when you're not? And I was like, and I broke the stick. And they were like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. It breaks. Like, and that's all part of the programs that we do too, with these rock brains. Like, there's these little guys. It's a ton of little things that mean a lot, I think, that have a great impact. And nowadays, when you go for your job, like, they're looking for adaptability, they're looking for emotional intelligence. And I'll tell you, 5 years ago, my emotional intelligence, if you said something to me that didn't work, I would have bit your head off. And I operated like that. I operated like that at work too, which I learned to keep it together, KIT,
Right. Keep it together.
Keep it together.
Well, you said earlier that who knew where you would be if you had done X, Y, and Z. But I feel, and I just want to say that you're exactly where
1000%
you should be and need to be, because if it wasn't for you working with these kids, we wouldn't have a resource. We wouldn't have services like what you're bringing to our community here in Carbondale and the Roaring Fork Valley. And I'm so grateful for you.
Well, thank you. I'm trying. I'm really trying. It's a little voice, just a little squeaky. Well, sometimes it's a loud voice, but
yeah. So let's transition to, I wanted to share with you guys, also had seen an ad in the Wall Street Journal from Sandy Hook Promise recently. And it's an organization, obviously, that was started by some of the parents who lost children in Sandy Hook. They started a program. There's several programs under the Sandy Hook Promise organization, and one of them is called Start With Hello. And this really ties into what you were saying about, kind of find a weirdo and love on them, essentially, is see someone alone, and learn how to recognize the signs of loneliness and social isolation. See somebody alone. Number 2 is reach out and help. Find out what you can do to help others feel included, which is exactly what you are doing in your program.
Yep.
And then 3rd is start with hello. Just discover how to break the ice and strike up a conversation simply with hello.
Start with hello.
Right.
And even as adults, like, moving to a new town, that's like basic.
Yeah.
Hello. In the grocery store, or standing in line. Hi, how's it going?
But so many people don't do that. We just pass by and we don't say hello, and we're scared or nervous or feeling uncertain or unsure or just feeling extra introverted that day, and that's okay. But I just want
it's important. Yeah. I bought this hat that has a big sparkly smiley face on it, and I thought, you know what, that made me smile. I'm going to put that on my head. I didn't wear it today, of course, but I do wear it every day. And so many people comment on it. And I say, I hope it makes you smile, because that's really what it is. Just takes one thing to turn your day around. And I think we're all suffering to a degree, and it's okay to say that and say, hey, I just need to say I'm suffering today a little bit. Do you know what I mean? But I'm going to get through it.
Right. So we've talked a lot about these strategies and languaging that we can use to help eliminate or at least reduce social isolation. And that's really the topic of this conversation. And, transitioning into gun violence, and I don't know if we really want to spend too much time talking about this because this is not a political show by any means, but I just wanted to basically connect the dots for the audience, which is that if we because there's thousands of people watch and consume this podcast, and if we all touch 100 people in our week, then that's 100,000 people that you and I have just, through our audience, had an impact on, most of whom are under the age of 10.
Right.
So if we can start doing good for those groups and for our teachers, then we can make a difference and have an impact on future generations and also potentially reduce gun violence. I mean, I'm an optimist and I'm a dreamer and I'm an idealist. And so I'm trying to also use this podcast in a way to, maybe think outside the box and do things that can actually do some social good.
Right. I mean, for me, it's even so today we had the violence thing, so today we had water balloons for the kids and the water balloon fight. Nope. Never fight. Can't fight. No fighting. Guns, and you can't bring guns, shooting, no guns. Like killing is not a game. Like, why do we have games?
Right.
Why? I don't understand that. And then those guns that they have, I don't know. I think people should have, I think people should, I hate guns, but I think you have a right to bear arms.
Right.
Having said that, the weapons that people have access to, when you go into the military, you have to take a psych eval and you have to be trained before you can use that gun.
Yes.
But I could go down the store today and buy the same gun.
Right.
That's a huge disconnect for me. I don't know. It
seems not to make sense. I have a friend who lives in London, and I asked him, well, what is England's policy? What do they do in England? And he said, well, you have to have a license. And in order to get a license, it usually takes a week to 10 days. Right. And it's not that we're not saying you can't have a gun.
No, that's not my business.
There's just a process.
That's right. And let's be reasonable. If you're going to, those young men have dedicated their life to protect this country, and they still have to pass a test to use the gun. Right. Why? But I don't have to. I didn't sign up for the army. Right. I didn't sign up for the military, but I could go get that same gun. Right. Like that's scary to me.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Doesn't. And I think have as many guns as you want, but there's certain guns we don't need to have. It's not. I don't think that's okay. So
what we're seeing across our nation now is we're seeing people like you and me and many, many moms and dads and just humans who are going, this doesn't make sense anymore. And it hasn't made sense for a long time, but now we're just fed up.
We're fed up.
And we're not going to take it anymore. And so I think that we're going to have to push for major change. And the more we push.
Right. And I think it starts in this small town. I mean, I don't, non-political discussion. I don't trust the leaders to make a decision that suits me, that I'm comfortable with. So we need to start slowly. That's the only way I think change is going to happen, where people are like, yeah, that gun has just caused too many deaths. That whatever that thing is, that the guy that fed those bullets all there, I mean, that's just why can't that be banned? Right. That man shot at my sister and my niece. And they can still do that with those, whatever they are, I don't know what they're called. Right. Like that's just
semi-automatic weapons or whatever.
That little block thing that was a big thing that nobody would ban. I thought, why do we need to shoot 1,000 bullets when you could shoot 10? Like that doesn't make there's certain things
it makes no sense.
We do not need to have. We don't need to have that.
Right. So I loved when you were talking about the games. In your school or in your program, you're going, we're not going to, there's no reference to even the fights, killing. Mm-mm. And so changing the language, of the games and the kids' behaviors early.
Right. I mean, just, to hear them talk about those games, Fortnite and Call of Duty. And I'll say like, well, is killing a game? That's not a game to me. That causes me
Right.
You know, I feel uncomfortable with that kind of behavior, kind of a thing, you know, and before I forget, that language that we were talking about earlier, like with kids, I'll say to them, do you think that's a reasonable reaction or unreasonable? Like just that neutral tone,
right,
I think is really kind of important for teachers to use, because we're so used to kind of showing kids or trying to teach kids good, bad, right, wrong. But like everybody has a different level of reasonable. So I think they're a little bit more neutral words that we could use instead of, well, you did that wrong. Well, why'd you do that kind of a thing? Let's just kind of not put, there's a lot of gray. It's not all black and white. And the kids are mostly in the gray.
Right. And getting them back to a place of neutral is everything.
Yeah.
Because instead of reacting to what you think is positive or negative, what's positive for you could be negative for someone else and vice versa.
Right.
So getting kids back to a place of acceptance and neutrality.
And like awareness of my body feels different when that kid does that over there. My body feels different when I play with this.
Right. So noticing the emotions in your body too.
In your body, the feeling, where it is, and you don't have to do anything about it. You just have to acknowledge it. Like, it's a little red today. I'm a little orange today. This little chart I have, and the kids they love that. They'll say, and I'll say, well, let's keep going back. Because you don't have to give it a name. They just have to have the ability to identify the difference of where they're very comfortable, semi-comfortable, moderately uncomfortable, really uncomfortable.
Right.
Because we're going to have times in life where we're all the way across the board.
My son had challenges, diagnosed with ADHD in second grade. He had a lot of challenges in first grade and throughout his elementary school time. And the audience knows, a lot of them are familiar with my story. He used to say to me, "Mommy, I feel gray today." And so I never knew about the colors thing. I only knew that when he said he felt gray, that he wasn't feeling good.
Right.
And so I think it's interesting that you bring out this color spectrum idea, because as a mom, I was like, oh, that's interesting that he's using a color to describe. It's basically a sad feeling.
It's sad feeling. Something that's different than happy, or at least feeling comfortable. We call it the feelings target.
Okay.
And the red is when you're, really red hot mad. And then the purple. I have a couple of friends that sometimes were in the purple.
Right. Well,
my favorite color, but I kept saying, stay out of the purple, Right.
Well, is there a link to that resource, to a colors chart or whatever? What are some resources that you might recommend for the audience?
So I will say that I do really think there's a wonderful program called Social Thinking. That's not my program, but I use bits and pieces of it. Okay. And I also really, really, really think that the DBT, Marsha Linehan's DBT, is phenomenal. It is just about, I can get those kids to lay on the ground and listen. Okay, see if you can hear a siren in the distance. Listen. And the whole mood changes.
Wow.
Oh, I hear the leaves. I hear this. And it's all about just awareness, and it changes. And she has another thing, Dr. Linehan, she has another thing in there that says, close the tabs. I say it every day. Close the tabs, Mo. Close the tabs. You're going to the podcast, but you're late. You're listening. Close tabs.
Right.
And then the kids, these two little boys, my two little favorite graduates, they would say to me, if they would see me like, doing like a million things, trying to get a million things to, messages to them, they'll say, Mo, close the tabs. I'm like, you're right. I got to close the tabs. I said, see?
Right.
I need my tabs closed too.
Right.
And I think it's okay to show kids you're having a hard time. It's okay.
Right. So let's talk about, we're gonna get towards our close on this session, and this has been amazing. What is next for you? Are you thinking that you're gonna just continue this work? Are you gonna try to get it into a bigger impact? Or are you just happy with what you're doing?
So so I had taken several months off after my my prodigy kids. That was absolutely a career high for me with these two children at my own school, and they graduated back, such great growth. So I took some time off, and now I'm back to work with the summer program, and I'm leaving for Mexico in 2 days, or 2 weeks, actually about 10 days, which I can't wait. And then when I come back, I'm going to start gearing up for a preschool, early childhood program because huge wait lists.
Right.
I have the skills. I have the programs, and we have to get these kids young.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's always going to be, oh, that kid. Well, guess what? When you say, oh, that kid, you call me, because that's my kid. I want that kid that's driving you crazy.
Right.
Because he's not going to drive me crazy.
Right.
I mean, that's
right.
there. So that's, and then we're, hopefully working with the local school districts and the other, kind of preschool programs to help take some of those kids off the wait lists.
Yeah.
And help the community. Just, just small groups are always small, probably 5 or 6. So that'll be new because we haven't done a preschool, but I think that's the next step.
Right.
And I feel that came to me one day, and I was like, oh, that's it. Okay.
Well, you have a friend that knows how to help you
so
with the business.
So that was the funniest thing because Gooch kept saying, years ago, call Kris. And our other friend Jessica called, and I was like, I'm like, I don't know what Kris does. We'll just move on. And then all of a sudden, when I was like, you're kidding, Mo, really? Right. Here we are. And then the last day of skiing, I'm like, oh, there we go. We're ready to go,
Right.
So that's going to be the next step, but just getting these younger guys. And I think that takes, I wish I had a bigger space because it could take more pressure off, the local families. We have a lot of pressure in this valley. I think just preschools, childcare, housing, the whole bit.
Right.
And I think that just take one little bit, and it's a lot for the school districts. And I'm the one racing to the door. I'll take those guys. They're mine.
Mine. So you guys need to help, just find the Mo. There's likely somebody that has your skill set
I'll
that
tell
wants
you,
those
if you
kids.
email me, I will send you whatever you need. I have no problem doing that. I work with families. You call me up. I was working with my cousin this summer. I said to her to try this. Whatever I have no problem. Problem, whatever it takes. It's just.
You're going to probably get lots of emails if we give your email address out.
That's okay.
But
I'll help you.
Okay.
You know why? Because that's what it is. My whole thing is just spread the love. We have to spread, our world is crazy. We have to spread the kindness. And I have no problem doing that. I have no problem sharing my information and helping. Send me your questions about a kid and I'll tell you, I'll give you 3 things you can do immediately.
Right.
And they're fun.
I love that.
And if you like markers, it's even a better tour.
Woohoo! Markers. So why don't you go ahead and give your email?
So it's Rocky Mountain MTN Kid Clubs with an S @gmail.com.
Awesome. And we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. And don't hesitate. Just do it. I'll get back to you when I get back from Mexico, but I promise I'll help. I will do whatever I can because
thank you.
That's how we're going to survive. That's how we have to do it.
Yeah.
It takes a village. It really does. It really does.
So I'm so inspired by you and inspired by this topic. I hope that you guys got a lot out of this. We have to be the ones to reach out, to love on the ones that feel isolated, to love on the ones that feel like they're alone and don't have a friend, and start with hello, reach out, invite them to something.
Right. And ask your child what they have done, if they help the teacher, because I was doing that over the, we had a weekly group and I was asking the kids what they did. Oh, I helped. And at first, this was very interesting. At first they would say, oh, I helped so-and-so get her pencil. Oh, I helped so-and-so with her backpack. And it was kind of, I didn't care what it was. I was just very happy that they did it.
Right.
But as the course of the school year went on, they were coming with more meaty acts of kindness. And I was like,
wow.
You listen, you got it. And I swear those kids, I see them now, they come over to me, they're hugging me and they know
that's awesome.
That I was like, listen, let's take care of each other.
Yeah.
That kid's going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of him, like that kind of a thing. And the stuff that they were doing and they were seeking it out, which I thought was remarkable. There's a lot of great kids in this town and they amaze me all the time. Well, everywhere.
So grateful that you're here in this community and that we've finally found each other as friends. And I think we're going to do some great work together, starting with this podcast. So thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Mo Thompson and the operator, founder of Rocky Mountain Kids Clubs here in Carbondale, Colorado. thanks guys for tuning in.
Yeah.
And we'll talk to you next time. And if you have feedback for me on this episode, this is a special episode, not only because it's in person, but it's about a special topic. Feel free to reach out to me individually, Kris at childcaresuccess.com. You guys know where to find me. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
This
Kris.
is fantastic.
Yeah, I know. I thank you so much. I could talk about this all day.
I know.
You know?
All right, guys. Take care and God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.